Hello, my name is McKenna and welcome to a true crime podcast. Now, this is a podcast, as you've heard, that we will be talking about true crime. Crimes that have happened recently or crimes that happened even years ago. Why not dig? Let's dig. On today's episode of True Crime Podcast, I am going to tell you a very interesting story. A story that takes us all the way down to the coastal beaches of Kenya, Kilifi. If I mention Kilifi, most of you picture white sandy beaches, the green by the beaches, the peace, the luxury hotels, and of course what comes with luxury, a lot of white, rich tourists, and of course, local tourists. And today's story is based on a tourist who landed in Kilifi in 2023. In 2023, a man by the name Tim Marvin Nenzebag landed, of course, in the coast of Kilifi, attracted by all the beautiful things that we've talked about. And he had flown in by just having a tourism visa, or what we call a traveling visa. But we see that later on, he finds Kilifi so interesting that he applies actually for a work visa and is allowed to stay longer in the country. And this, of course, according to different blogs and different sources of news, that is the newspapers, we see that he requested for the visa in interest in farming. And that brings me to my next question. I keep wondering, we all don't know the coastal side as well, it's not very popular with farming. Well, we know they do other things like fishing, they carry out other activities like, of course, tourism, but farming is not something that really happens in coasts. Anyway, let's push that aside. We come to see that way later, other blogs also say, and I believe this is true because I have gotten it from good sources, that he opens up a community, a local community center. And if you see, like what happens still in those sides of Kilifi, as much as there is the tourism side, the luxury hotels, we also have the locals. Locals maybe that might be homeless, people who might be out there on the streets, people who are less privileged who might need such people to come and bring help to them, which is a very good thing, by the way. And what makes me wonder is, and I know what is making you wonder, is how such a gentleman, how such a person who has built a name, a good name in the community, ends up in a true crime podcast. Now, let me shorten the story for you. Let me introduce another character. A 15-year-old Rwandese girl, and let me be very specific. This is a 15-year-old, a minor, an underage. So, let me tell you how these two stories or these two characters meet. So maybe we are assuming for 15-year girls, she wants to explore. That's a teenager. And maybe also she was also trying to help the mother, maybe financially, or she was having a nice time walking by the beach. And this is how they meet with Mr. Tim Marvin. And the story keeps getting interesting. On one night on February 2024, something happened to Marvin that he actually never expected. I'm sure on a random night, maybe you're doing your own things, you're running your own errands, and you just see a fleet of Subarus coming your way. We all know what happens when you see Subarus, right? Of course, it's the DCI. So that makes the whole neighborhood stand still, and they come to his compound, cuff him, and take him away. Who would ever expect that on a random night in Kilifi? Anyway, it was a shocker to most of them because towards the neighbor, he was just another tourist next door, a random guy maybe on the coast enjoying his time with his family or his friends, just enjoying the coastal breeze. But to the DCI, he was a nuisance and a person of interest. Later on the other walls of justice, we come to see Tim Marvin standing in court with the following accusations. He was reported for child defilement, there was child pornography and sexual offenses. Come on, let's be truthful. We all know that for most or 99% of the people who stand in court plead to well, to be not guilty. Because, well, they say you're innocent until you're proven guilty. So, of course, he stood in court and he pleaded not guilty. So let's dig deeper into the case and determine whether he was guilty or not guilty. Let's look at the charges. On the first charge, that was trafficking, the court actually dismissed this charge, saying that they later found out that the mother, this is the 15-year-old girl's mother, used actually to accompany her to go and see Marvin to his house. So that basically doesn't count as trafficking. There was an adult around who was the mother, of course, a guardian. On the second charge, that is the charge of child pornography, prosecution actually and the forensics team found evidence that on Marvin's phone that he was actually having images or pornographic images on his phone. On the third charge, that was child defilement, the prosecution actually, the prosecution alleged that he was luring the minor, the underage, the 15-year-old girl, to his house. Is that true? What do you think about it? But before we get to decide, let's look at the other side of the story. Well, on the research that I've done, more evidence keeps piling up. The medical evidence show that this girl or this minor had all hymenal wounds with no fresh injuries. That keeps and builds already a lot of questions in court. Secondly, evidence still came up that from her social media, around 6 messages were retrieved showing that there was someone else trying to persuade or was trying to push her to try and blame or accuse Marvin of the wrongdoings. I mean, so this kind of already gets us asking, was Marvin really guilty, or was all this a plan from someone who wanted to ruin him or go for his money? Anyway, that it actually doesn't stop there. On something that came up way later is that this minor tried to commit suicide after her mother actually tried to cut ties with her and Marvin. So, who do we blame here? With all these evidences that are piling up, who is telling the truth? Let's find out. Well, on the other hand, Marvin agrees and admits that he was actually taking drugs with this girl. He said they were using some alcohol substances, maybe some other times, like maybe psychiatric, they prescribed, because we understand that there was a time that this girl was tested and all the substances were found in her system. But the good thing is, he at least admits to that crime. So, after all the evidence that we've discussed today, after everything that we've analyzed, let me ask you something. Where do you think Tim Marvin is today? Do you think he's in Kilifi, akinywa maji ya madafu, or he's maybe deported, or himself decided, you know what, I am done with this country, I've had enough? And do we also know whether his center is still going on? These are the questions that I'd like you guys to help me answer. But before everything, let me explain to you what happened. This was the verdict from the court. After a year and a half of him being in jail, they finally said that he is not guilty. Reason being, the evidence that was collected, as you've heard, was not strong enough to, well, hold a man behind bars, and more so a foreigner behind bars. Anyway, that is not the end of it. That is not the end of the case. I want us to still discuss the case down at the comment section. Let me know who you think was innocent, because later on we see that the mother and this 15-year-old girl just vanished. No one knows their whereabouts. We've never heard from them again. So, dear viewers, let me know, who do you think was guilty? Was Tim Marvin the one who committed the crime, or was the crime committed to him? Anyway, till next time, as I go and prepare your next story, kindly make sure you comment, tell me your thoughts, and subscribe. Till next time, Have a lovely time.